Hey my dear students, here we are again. In our today's lesson, we are still going to discuss on electrolysis. Before I proceed, I remain Mr. Mbah Collins, your chemistry teacher from Rosa Mystica High School, Agulu. In our lesson today, we are going to look at the electrolysis of copper 2 tetraodosulfate salt, copper 2 tetraodosulfate 6 salt. I repeat, electrolysis of copper 2 tetraodosulfate 6 what? Salt, and electrolysis of what? Brine. Now, in the specific objective, it is expected that by the end of the lesson, you should be able to identify the products found at the anode and the cathode in the electrolysis of copper 2 tetraodosulfate what? 6. To explain why there is color change in the electrolyte after electrolysis of copper 2 tetraodosulfate 6. The third one, explain what happens when copper electrode is used in the electrolysis of what? Copper 2 tetraodosulfate 6. Then finally, use electrolytic cell diagram to explain why chlorine is preferentially discharged at the anode in the electrolysis of what? Brine. So, let's begin with electrolysis of copper 2 tetraodosulfate 6. So let's look at electrolysis of copper 2 tetraodosulfate what? 6. Now in the electrolysis of copper 2 tetraodosulfate 6, we have the following electrolytic diagram. Okay, so this is the electrolytic cell. Now, what happens during the electrolysis of copper 2 tetraodosulfate what? 6? We have the anode, we have the cathode. Now, the ions present in the solution you have the copper 2 ion, you have the sulfate ion, you have the hydrogen ion, and you have the hydroxyl what? Ion. Now, let's assume that we are using platinum electrode, and this one platinum electrode. Remember, the platinum electrode is an inert what? Electrode. That means it cannot take part in the chemical what? Reaction. So the ions present in the solution is copper 2 ion, sulfate ion, hydrogen ion, and hydroxyl what? Ion. Then, when there is electron flow, you remember the cathode becomes highly electronegative, leading to excess of what? Electron. Then at the cathode, we have ions present. You can still recall our Arrhenius theory. We say that the positive ions migrate to what? Cathode. So the ions present are copper 2 ion and hydrogen what? Ion. So these are the two ions present at the what? Cathode. Now what is the half? What is the half cell reaction at the cathode? You remember our chemical series. When we refer to the chemical series, you can observe that copper is lower in the chemical series than what? Than hydrogen. We say, please call me Augustine. Z is leader here. Here you have hydrogen, then the copper below what? Hydrogen. So the copper is lower in the chemical series, which means that the copper will be preferentially discharged at the what? At the cathode. So let's look at the reaction. And you can also observe that at the cathode there is gain of what? Electron. So at the cathode, copper gains electron and deposited as what? Metallic what? Copper. It will be deposited as what? Metallic what? Copper. So reduction occur at the what? At the cathode. Then when we go over to the anode, at anode we have the ions present. The ions present include sulfate ion and hydroxyl what? Ion. Now, what is the half cell reaction? Okay, so let's take the ion that is preferentially discharged at the what? At the anode. If you recall our electrochemical series, you can easily observe that the hydroxyl ion is lower in the chemical series than what? Than the sulfate ion. So the hydroxyl ion will be discharged, and here it loses electron, leading to production of hydroxide. Plus what? Electron. Then the hydroxide combines with itself to form water plus what? Oxygen. Then the oxygen cannot exist as an atom, and it combines with another oxygen to form oxygen what? Gas. So the overall reaction can say 4 molecules of hydroxyl ion leads to production of water, 2 molecules of water plus oxygen gas plus what? 4 molecules of electron. So this is the reaction that occurs at the what? At the anode. So let's look at the overall reaction. Overall reaction at both electrodes. Now we go over to the cathode. We have this. Okay, so in this particular place, we will compare the number of molecules of water we have at the cathode with the one we have at the what? At the anode. So at the anode we have 4 molecules of electron. Then at the cathode we have 2 molecules of what? Electron. And we will need to eliminate the electrons. So what happens is this: you multiply the equation by what? 2. So you produce 2 copper ion plus 4 electron plus 2 copper solid. Okay, so you combine the equation 2 and equation what? Equation 2 and what? 3. Okay, so here you have to eliminate the electrons. So finally, you have 2 copper 2 ion plus 4 hydroxyl ion plus leading to formation of copper solid plus 2 molecules of water plus oxygen gas. Okay, so we have finally the reaction that occur at the cathode and the anode. 2 molecules of copper 2 ion plus 4 molecules of hydroxyl ion leading to production of 2 molecules of copper solid plus 2 molecules of water plus 1 molecule of what? Oxygen gas. So, in the use of copper 2 tetra also sulfur 6, at the cathode, copper metal is what? Deposited. Then at the anode, oxygen gas is what? Deposited. Now, what happens to the solution? What do you think will happen to this solution? You can easily recall that the copper ion is blue in what color? The copper ion is blue in what color? So, before the electrolysis, the electrolyte is blue in what color? Then when the copper, which carries the blue color, is deposited at what? At the cathode. And the hydroxyl ion is deposited at the what? Anode. So the two ions that will be left in the what? In the solution will be hydrogen ion and the sulfate what? Ion. So what do you think that will happen to the color of the what? Solution? The blue color of the solution will do what? It will fade. The blue color of the solution will do what? It will fade. Because copper has been eliminated from the what? From the solution. So to the solution, the blue color does what? It fades. Okay, so this is all about the release of copper 2 tetrasulfur 6 using platinum what? Electrode. Using platinum what? Electrode. Now, if you can still recall the factors that affect the discharge of the ion, the third one is the nature of the electrode. Assuming that we are not making use of platinum electrode and we are using copper electrode, what do you think that will happen? I want to tell you that. Okay, so now what happens is this: we have the ions present, and at the cathode, the copper and the hydrogen ion will be deposited. Then we migrate to the cathode. Then metallic copper will be what? Deposited. So the reaction that happens here is what is going to happen during electrolysis of copper 2 tetrasulfur 6 using copper what? Electrode. But what happens to the what? To the anode? To the anode, the ions present will be sulfate ion and hydroxyl what? Ion. But the half cell reaction will not be what? The same. It will not be what? The same. Because we are using a sort of the what? Metal anode. A sort of the metal what? Anode. Which is copper sulfate. And the anode is copper what? Anode. So what happens is, as copper is being deposited at the cathode, this anode will be what? Reduced. The anode will be what? Reduced. This anode will now be reacting with the what? With the solution. It will be going into the what? To the solution. And when it is going into the solution, remember that the anode is metallic copper. So when it goes into the solution, what happens is that it gains electron. When it gains electron, it will go into the solution as what? Copper 2 ion. It will go into the solution as copper 2 what? Ion. Now you have this. As copper is leaving the solution, depositing at the cathode, the anode is dissolving in the what? In the solution. So at the anode, we have, if we are using copper anode, we will now have copper ion produced. The copper ion will go into the what? Solution. Okay, then what do you think that will happen to the what? To the color of this solution? What do you think that will happen to the color of this solution? You recall initially that the blue color will gradually what? Fade. But if you look at this one, as the copper that carries the color is being deposited at the cathode, the copper anode will dissolve and go into the what? Solution. So what happens is that there will be no change in the color of the what? Solution, because equal amount of copper leaves the electrolyte, equal amount of copper goes into the what? Electrolyte. So in terms of the color change, there will be no color change in the what? In the solution. If you are dealing with a dose of copper 2 sulfate using copper what? Anode. Okay, so let's go over to electrolysis of brine. Electrolysis of what? Brine. Okay. Electrolysis of what? Brine. Okay, so the brine is what? Calm sodium what? Chloride. Calm sodium what? Chloride. We are still using the same electrolytic what? Cell. But the electrolyte now is calm sodium chloride. Okay, now what are the ions present? You can say ions present in the solution. So the ions present in the solution include sodium ion, chloride ion, hydrogen ion, and OH what? Ion. This is hydroxyl ion. Now these are the ions present in the what? In the electrolyte of what? Brine. Electrolyte, which is what? Brine. Now at the cathode, ions present at the cathode include what? Sodium ion and hydrogen what? Ion. So they have cell reaction. What do you think will be the half cell reaction? We go back to the electrochemical series. We can easily observe that the hydrogen ion is lower in the electrochemical what? Series. Therefore, it will be preferentially discharged at the what? At the cathode. Then here we have the hydrogen ion that gains 2 electrons to become hydrogen gas. So, the hydrogen ion migrates to the cathode, gains an electron, and be deposited as hydrogen what? Gas. Then at anode. At anode, we have ions present. The ions present include chloride ion and hydroxyl ion. Now, which of these ions will be preferentially discharged at what? At the anode. You can still recall that despite the position of the ion in the electrochemical series affects the discharge of the ions, we equally say that the concentration of the electrolyte affects the what? The discharge of the ion as well. So here, you can easily observe that the sodium chloride is what? Concentrated. So instead of the hydroxyl ion that is lower in the electrochemical series being discharged at the anode, the chloride ion will be discharged at the what? At the anode. So they have cell reaction. Okay, so the half cell reaction becomes the chloride ion losing an electron to be deposited as chlorine what? Gas. And recall, this one is what? Reduction. And this one is what? Oxidation. Okay, so in the electrolysis of brine, which is called sodium chloride, at the cathode, hydrogen gas is what? Deposited. Then at the anode, chlorine gas is what? Deposited. So in the solution, what happens to the solution? If hydrogen and chlorine is being removed from the solution, you have sodium ion and hydrogen what? Ion. So when you look at this solution, the sodium ion and hydrogen ion combines to form a what? An alkali. That means the solution will become what? Basic. The solution will be what? Basic. Or it can be alkaline in what? Nature. Meaning that there is a presence of what? Alkali or a base. So the solution becomes what? Basic or alkaline in nature. Okay, so this is all about electrolysis of what? Brine. The major point here is this. We are no longer discharging hydrogen ion at the what? At the anode, but chloride what? Ion. And because of what? It is highly what? Concentrated. And the solution, because of the acid here is removed, which is the hydrogen ion and the chloride ion, the solution becomes what? Basic. Okay, so having gone through this, we have discussed the release of copper 2 tetraoxide 6. We use the inert electrode, platinum electrode. Then we use active electrode, which is copper what? Electrode. And we discussed the release of brine. We are making use of, we made use of platinum. The platinum electrode, which is inert electrode. Let's entertain ourselves with some questions. We go over to the evaluation. The first question you have there is this. Aqueous copper 2 tetraoxide 6 was electrolyzed using the following pairs of electrodes. I repeat, aqueous copper 2 tetraoxide 6 was electrolyzed using the following pairs of electrodes. First off, in which case was there a decrease in the mass at the what? Anode. In which case was there a decrease in the mass of the what? Anode. Now, we look at the first option. At the cathode we have graphite, at the anode we have graphite. Now these two electrodes are inert. That means they will never take part during chemical reaction or during electrolysis. Therefore, the anode compartment and the cathode will remain the same. The sizes will remain the same. Then the second one we have the platinum and what? Platinum. There are also inert electrodes, so they will not take part in the reaction. Then the third one is copper cathode and copper what? Anode. If you still recall the definition we made in that of the use of copper 2 tetraoxide 6, we use copper electrode and the copper anode. In the copper anode, there is what? Reduction in the mass of the what? Anode. So once we use copper, which is an active electrode, the mass of the anode will be what? Decreased, or it will be reduced. So the answer becomes what? C. We move on to the second question. The second question, it says, a concentration solution of sodium chloride, was electrolyzed using graphite electrodes. The I state the ions present in the solution is just like what we have here. if we use graphite electrode, which is equally acting the same as the platinum electrode, the ions present in the solution is sodium ion, chloride ion, hydrogen ion, and hydrogen ion. So these are the 4 ions present in the solution. Then the II, name the products at the anode and the cathode. So at the anode we have chlorine gas deposited. Then at the cathode we have hydrogen gas deposited. Then the last but not least, give the byproduct of the electrolysis. Now the byproduct is the ions that remain in the solution. The ions or the compounds that remain in the solution. So if hydrogen has been removed from the solution and chlorine has been removed from the solution, the 2 ions that remain in the solution is sodium ion and hydrogen ion. So when they combine, they produce sodium hydroxide. So the byproduct is sodium hydroxide solution. Okay, so this is just the questions I have for you. And I believe if you still have any problem, if you are encountering any difficulty while going through the lesson, you can as well contact me through my WhatsApp number 081 3838 7567. I repeat, 081 3838 7567. Thanks for your audience, and may God bless us.
Rosa Mystica High School.